Breaking news! The Eagles may be about to make a bold, franchise-defining move in this year's NFL draft, but it's a move that carries significant risk and a hefty price tag. With the deadline to receive visits from the top 30 being April 16th, the clock is ticking and the pressure is on Howie Roseman and the front office to finalize their evaluations and plan a potentially aggressive draft strategy. I've heard some information that's been leaked behind the scenes, and I'll tell you all about it. But first, make sure you've hit that like button if you're a true Philadelphia Eagles fan and believe we're going to win the Super Bowl again. If possible, write something like, "Go Eagles! Let's go to the Super Bowl." Now, speaking of the draft and potential moves, here's a list. Among the names that have emerged from these visits is Georgia safety Malachi Starks, a player who has left fans divided. On one hand, Starks brings the kind of pedigree you want, an All-American who started as a freshman under Kirby Smart's complex defensive scheme and became a key leader on one of the best defenses in college football. On the other, his relative athletic rating barely cracked a 5, which puts him at odds with the Eagles' clear draft philosophy of prioritizing elite athleticism. Since 2022, 17 of the Eagles' 18 draft picks have had a RAS of 8 or higher. That's no fluke. It's a formula that's clearly working. So the real question is, will Howie break the mold and finally draft a safety in the first round, something the franchise has never done before? This dilemma is even more complex when you consider that the only Eagles pick since 2020 to not meet that high athletic standard in the first 4 rounds was Jalen Hurts, and we all know how that turned out. But exceptions exist. Eli Ricks, despite testing poorly, made the roster and held opponents to a 50% completion rate when targeted, 9th best in the league last season. And now, Ricks is being floated by beat writers like Reuben Frank and John McMullen as a potential dark horse for the other starting cornerback spot, even though it's widely believed that Kelee Ringo has the inside track. That battle is shaping up to be one of the most intriguing storylines going into training camp, and it could dictate how the Eagles approach the cornerback position in the draft. But let's not kid ourselves. The Ricks hype is based more on potential and hope than proven consistency. Still, the fact that he's even in the conversation after going undrafted last year says a lot about what the coaching staff sees in him. And while we're on the topic of draft trends and athletic profiles, another name to watch is Wyatt Millam out of West Virginia. A 4-year starter with experience at both tackle positions, Millam played over 1,200 pass blocking snaps at left tackle without allowing a single sack until the Senior Bowl. His RAS? Just over 8, which fits perfectly with the Eagles' recent draft patterns. But there's a catch. Millam's arm length is considered short for a tackle, and several scouts think he might be better suited inside as a guard. If he's still on the board in the 3rd or 4th round, he could be a sneaky good value pick, especially for a team like Philly that values versatility on the offensive line. Meanwhile, linebacker Kobe King from Penn State is another player who fits the Eagles' needs and could be available in the mid to late rounds. King isn't going to wow anyone with his 40 time, but at 6 feet 1 inch, 248 pounds, and with 26 bench press reps under his belt, he's built like a classic Mike linebacker. He racked up 97 tackles, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble last season and thrives in run defense. His limitations in open field and man coverage may drop him to the 4th or 5th round, but his physicality and potential to contribute on special teams make him an intriguing depth piece for Philly's linebacker core. When you consider that Howie recently made Zach Bond the 4th highest paid linebacker in the league, it's clear that this front office is finally starting to place more value on the position than in years past. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the rumors swirling around TJ Watt. Yes, there's been chatter, but let's be clear, there's no definitive report linking Watt to the Eagles. This seems to be one of those situations where a writer throws out a list of hypothetical trade suitors, and it spirals from there. Could it happen? Sure, anything is possible with Howie pulling the strings. And yes, what is a better scheme fit than someone like Myles Garrett because of his coverage ability? But the cost? Enormous. It would require giving up significant draft capital and committing to a massive contract, moves that could jeopardize long-term roster flexibility. And given how much this team values its young core, that's a tough sell. Which brings us to Jalen Ramsey. Despite reports that the Dolphins and Ramsey are exploring trade options, don't expect the veteran corner to land in Philly. His $30 million cap hit and previous issues with Vic Fangio's system make him a risky addition, both financially and from a locker room standpoint. The Eagles have built one of the tightest-knit cultures in the NFL. The last thing they need is a potential disruptor, no matter how talented he is. As for Brandon Graham, the heart and soul of this defense for over a decade, he's all but confirmed that he's stepping away. Yes, he threw out that 90% retired line on the Up and Adams show, but he later clarified that it was more about reflecting on the journey than making a definitive retirement statement. Still, all signs point to BG hanging it up. And if that's the case, the Eagles lose more than just a pass rusher. They lose a leader, a mentor, and a bridge between eras. You can't replace a guy like that with just production. His presence in the locker room is irreplaceable. Finally, Howie Roseman has been open about the possibility of trading up in the draft. He knows the risks, he's acknowledged the missed opportunities, and he understands the weight of each decision. But aggressive is in his DNA. He's not afraid to go get his guy, and with the support of Nick Sirianni and Jeffrey Lurie, he just might do it again this year. Whether it's for Starks, a cornerback, or another explosive talent, expect fireworks on draft night. Now it's your turn. Do you think the Eagles should break tradition and draft a safety like Malachi Starks in the first round despite his athletic profile? Is Eli Ricks a legitimate contender for a starting spot, or should the Birds invest in another corner early in the draft? And would you roll the dice on a big splash like TJ Watt, or stick with the draft and develop model that's brought so much success in recent years? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, if you're still with me, let's keep digging, because this Eagles offseason isn't just about the draft. It's about identity. It's about whether this team is doubling down on the values that got them to a Super Bowl not that long ago, or pivoting towards something new. And you better believe every decision Howie Roseman makes between now and draft night will shape the narrative for the 2025 season and beyond. Let's circle back to Malachi Starks for a second, because his situation is more layered than just a low RAS score. When Joel Klatt, one of the most respected voices in college football analysis, says it's rare for a freshman to start for Kirby Smart, that should carry serious weight. Starks not only did that, he thrived in one of the most complex defensive schemes in college football. That speaks volumes about his football IQ, instincts, and work ethic. He's not just some talented athlete with raw upside. He's a proven leader who's been battle-tested in the SEC and emerged as one of the most consistent defensive backs in the country. If there's one player worth breaking the Eagles' no safety in the first round tradition for, it might just be him. And let's not forget the NFL draft attendance trend. Anthony Diana pointed out a sneaky little detail. The Eagles' first pick in the last 4 drafts was a player in attendance at the draft itself. Guess who's going to be there this year? Malachi Starks. It might sound like a coincidence, but when you're looking for signs, that's a big one. If Starks is still on the board and Philly's within striking distance, don't be shocked if Howie makes the move. We've seen him do it before. But what if the Birds stay put? If they don't make a move for Starks or another safety, that opens the door for a different direction. There's still a real possibility that cornerback is the pick, especially considering the uncertainties behind Darius Slay and James Bradbury. Slay is entering the twilight of his career, and Bradbury had a rough 2024 season. If Ricks doesn't take a leap and Ringo doesn't lock that spot down in camp, the secondary could quickly become a liability. One thing's for sure, the Eagles are not done building. They're just getting started. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you think Howie Roseman should stick to the proven formula, or take a chance on a guy like Malachi Starks despite the athletic red flags? Are you putting your faith in Eli Ricks to emerge, or are you eyeing a new DB in the draft? And what are your thoughts on moving on from Brandon Graham? Can anyone fill those shoes, on the field or in the locker room? Let us know what you're thinking in the comments below.